If you're new to Xero and you're looking for a comprehensive free tutorial to get you started, then you've come to the right place. Because in this video, we're going to go through a bunch of lessons on how to use the Australian version of Xero. And while there's plenty of great information in this video, bear in mind that Xero is a very big program and learning it in depth takes a lot of time and effort. So if you want to learn more, check out the rest of the Xero videos on this channel and also check out our comprehensive course options, which are linked to in the description below. Okay, let's get started on learning how to use Xero. First up, if you already have a Xero account, you can skip this part of the video and use the timestamps to go to the next part. But if you don't have one yet, start by clicking on the link in the description below this video to get a copy of our Xero setup checklist that will help you gather together the information you'll need to have on hand when signing up to Xero and setting it up for your business. Then click on the link in the description below that takes you to Xero's website, where you can choose between either a 30-day free trial of Xero or a discounted paid subscription, which at the time of making this video was 90% off the first 6 months of any paid plan. Just click on the button for whichever option you like and complete the rest of the sign-up process. Once you've finished going through the sign-up process, you should see a screen that looks something like this, with your business name at the top. Now for this video, we're going to use the Australian version of what's called the demo company. So if you want to do exactly what I do throughout this video, follow these steps. Click on the drop-down menu at the top left, and then click on My Xero down the bottom of the menu. A new screen will open up, and then click on Change Country, and just make sure it's set to Australia and save. And now you should end up on a page that looks like this with Demo Company AU in the top left corner. You can go ahead and close the other tab because we're going to do everything in this tab. Okay, so the demo company is just a pretend business that Xero has set up that contains a lot of information such as bank account information, invoices, bills, payroll information, etc. So we can use the demo company for demonstration purposes here because it's not a real business and there's no sensitive information that could be shared. And you can also use it to practice your bookkeeping in Xero without any fear of messing up your real accounts for your real business. Okay, now that we have the demo company open, let's do a little tour so you can find your way around Xero more easily. So as you can see, we're on a screen called the dashboard, and this is the screen that you'll get to every time you log into Xero. And on the dashboard, there's different panels, and those panels show you some summarized information for things like your bank accounts, the invoices that are owed to you, bills you need to pay, and expense claims. And you can actually edit the dashboard if you click here. So you can decide whether to show or hide different elements on the dashboard by checking and unchecking the panels. And you can also move them around. So for example, if you wanted expense claims to be up higher, you could just mouse over this part to get the little hand and then drag it up, let it go, and then it's up higher, and then click on Save Changes. Anytime you want to get back to the dashboard, no matter where you are in Xero, you just need to click on Dashboard up here in the main menu. Okay, let's have a look at the drop-down menu up here on the top left. So if you click on it, the first thing on the menu is a link to the Files section, and that's where you can actually store files in Xero. Then you have a link to the Settings section, which we'll go to soon. Then you just have the name of the organization that you're using at the moment. And if you have multiple organizations, those names will appear here. And there's also some quick links to things like expense claims, Analytics Plus, HubDoc, and the App Store, and then My Xero. So I'll just click on the App Store. And this is where you can go to sign up to external apps that you can link to Xero. And there's dozens and dozens of them, and they cover all different types of tasks and functions. So if you click on here, for example, if you're looking for a CRM function, you can click on that. And then you can choose from all the CRM apps here. Okay, so now let's just go to My Xero. And we had a quick look in here before, but I just wanted to show you that this is where you can go if you want to upgrade your Xero subscription, or if you want to actually add another Xero subscription for another organization. Okay, I'll just close this and then we'll click on dashboard to go back to the main dashboard. And along the top here, there's a bunch of different drop-down menus. So this is the business menu where you've got mostly some links to the invoices and bills area. So if you want to create a new invoice or create a new quote or add a new bill or create a purchase order, this is where you go. There's also links to expense claims if you've got that with your Xero subscription, and products and services, which is inventory. In the accounting menu, there's links to the bank account section, the reporting section, some more settings. There's also a favorites list for your reports here, so you can get to them quickly. There's links to chart of accounts, find and recode if you've made mistakes that you want to fix, fixed assets and manual journals. If you have Xero payroll, this is the menu for that. If you have projects, this is the menu for projects. And this is the menu to go to if you want to add or manage your contacts. Over on the right here, there's also a quick links menu. So if you click on this plus button and you want to create an invoice, for example, you can just go here instead of going through the main menu. And it's the same thing with things like bills, contacts, quotes, and purchase orders. When you sign up to Xero, you will complete some initial settings, but there are a few other initial settings that you may need to complete before you start using Xero properly, and I'll show you where they are now. So if you go to the main drop-down menu and settings, you'll get to this screen here where there's a few settings that you need to make sure you have complete before you start using Xero properly. The first one is organization details, and you will have most likely completed some of this when you signed up to Xero, but just make sure you go through and complete all of the required information and also add in your ABN. When you're finished, click on Save and go back to Settings and then go to Users. Now, because this is the demo company, I can't add any more users here, but in the Xero account for your real business, you'll be able to add users, give them permissions for things like bank accounts, payroll, etc. And you'll also be able to add your accountant or bookkeeper as a user as well, so they can log straight into your Xero account and make any changes or get any information they need. Okay, let's go back to settings. Now, if you're using more than one currency, you can go into currencies and just click on add currency, find the currency you want and just add it. I also recommend going to email settings and just making sure that the right email address is here for the logged in user. And then you can also have a look at the templates in here. And these are the templates for the emails that are sent directly out of Xero to your customers and to your suppliers for things like sales invoices, purchase orders, quotes, etc. And if you want to change any of them, you just need to click on them and make your changes in here and then save it. Okay, if I go back to settings and then go to advanced settings down the bottom here, one of the main things you need to make sure you've got set up properly is your chart of accounts. So Xero comes with a standard chart of accounts that will be installed when you sign up to Xero. But if you need to use a different chart of accounts, perhaps one that your accountant wants you to use, then you or your accountant needs to come over here and import it. And this is also the place where you can go if you want to add any new general ledger codes or make any other changes to your chart of accounts. So if I go back to advanced accounting, one of the last things I recommend you do before you start using Xero is just click on tax rates and just make sure that all of your GST tax rates are there. So if you use the simpler BAS, you'll most likely just use these tax rates. But if you use a full BAS, you'll need to click on change to advanced tax rates. And as you can see, there are a lot more GST tax rates there. Now, if you don't know which one to choose, just consult your tax accountant. All right, I'm going to change this back to basic tax rates because I'm not going to use a full BAS in this video. Okay, now that we've got some of our initial settings in place, I'll go back to the dashboard. and I'll show you how to add a bank account to Xero. One of the first things you'll do when setting up Xero is to add your bank account or bank accounts. And you can see here in the demo company, there are 2 bank accounts already set up, but I'll show you where to go to add your first bank account or to add more bank accounts if you've already got one set up. So the best place to go is Accounting and Bank Accounts, and then click on the Add Bank Account button. And from here, you just follow a process where first you need to just check that you've got the country right there. And then you just need to search for the name of your bank. So you can see on the list down below, some of the biggest banks in Australia are already listed. So I could just click on one of those. But if you can't see the name of your bank there, just search for it up here. So for example, if you bank with Great Southern Bank, you can just type in Great and it will find it, and then just click on it. And what happens next is that you'll go through a connection process with your bank, and every bank is slightly different. So I'll just show you a little bit of this process. So you can see here that I just need to click on Agree and Continue. And then in the next screen, I just need to enter my customer number and my password. So I won't go any further in the process because this is just the demo company, but you can get an idea here that what you need to do is just go through a process where you put in your banking details and then it will connect to your bank. Now, what happens if it's successful is if we go back to the dashboard, Xero will automatically create a panel for your bank account on the dashboard, and the details will show up here just like these ones. And if we go back to Accounting and Bank Accounts, your bank account will appear on the list here as well. And then you'll be able to also go in and reconcile your bank transactions. And the other thing that will happen is you should see a green button appear in the panel where you can click on it and you can create automatic bank feeds, or sometimes it might even ask you if you want to do that during the sign up process. And if you do choose to have automatic bank feeds, then your bank transactions will flow into Xero automatically and you won't need to manually upload them. Okay, so I recommend you do that if you can. Okay, so that's how you can connect a bank account. Next up, I'll show you how to actually reconcile bank transactions. To reconcile transactions in the bank accounts that you've got in Xero, all you need to do is find a button like this that says Reconcile 28 items. If you're on the dashboard, there'll be a button there as well, so you can just go straight into it from here. And once you get to the reconciliation screen, you will see bank transactions on the left and Xero transactions on the right. And Xero will attempt to match them up so that all you need to do is just check them and then press OK. So if we scroll down, we can see there's a bunch of bank transactions that have come through, and some of them have been matched and some of them have not. So the ones that have been matched, so this is money that's received over here. So that's been matched to an invoice that was created in Xero and sent to the customer. Now they've paid it. The bank transaction has flowed up here into Xero, and then Xero has automatically matched it to the invoice. And when that happens, if it's correct, you can just click on OK and it will reconcile. So you can see at the moment there's 28 items to reconcile. If I click on OK, that's now 27. So that transaction is reconciled. Likewise, there's a spent money transaction down here that's been matched in Xero. And if I click on OK there, that's now reconciled, and now there's 26 items left to reconcile. Okay, so the ones that aren't matched up, there's a few different reasons that might happen. The first is that there is no transaction in Xero yet. So for this spent money transaction, for example, maybe you haven't entered a bill into Xero, so you need to enter a bill, or you just need to create a spend money transaction because there was no bill, but you spent the money anyway. And when you do that, you'll be able to reconcile it. And the same thing goes for invoices and other types of transactions as well, such as transfers. Okay, so that's how you can reconcile your transactions through this feed. You can also go to cash coding, and this is a way that you can reconcile transactions in bulk. So if you've got several transactions that are, for example, going to go to the same general ledger code, you can come over here and you can very quickly code them up together and then click on Save and Reconcile, and it will reconcile multiple transactions at one time. So that's one way that you can save time. Over here, there's the Bank Statements tab. So this shows you a list of all the bank transactions that are reconciled and unreconciled. There's account transactions. So these are transactions that are in Xero, such as invoices, bills, spend money, receive money transactions, etc. And you can see that they're also either marked reconciled or unreconciled. There's also a reconciliation report. So if your bank account is currently out of balance, you can come to this report and you can find out why. So there's quite a lot of transactions there because we haven't reconciled them all. Now, if we go back to the bank account screen, I'll just show you that this is what it looks like when your bank account is unreconciled. So you can see there's two different balances there. And this is what it looks like when your bank account is reconciled. So there will be one amount showing up and then a green tick and reconciled written right next to it. Okay, so there's lots of different types of transactions that can be reconciled in your bank accounts in Xero. We do have a full-length video on our channel to help you reconcile some of the easier ones, which I'll link to in the description below. And if you need to learn how to reconcile more complex transactions such as overpayments, underpayments, and foreign currency transactions, we cover those in our courses, which are also linked to in the description below. So check them out if you need to. Before you start sending invoices to your clients from Xero or adding bills for payment, you might like to check out the Invoice Settings. So if you go to the drop-down menu and Settings, and then click on Invoice Settings, in here you can create what's called branding themes. And these branding themes control the look and feel of your invoices and other documents. So in the demo company, there's a couple of branding themes already set up: the standard, the special projects, and the very orange invoice. If you're setting up your business for real, you won't see anything here yet, and you just need to create a new branding theme. And when you do, you'll be taken to a screen that looks like this, where you can change all kinds of settings for your finance documents. And that includes whether to add payment services to your invoices over here, which I'll show you shortly. And also what kind of text you want to put at the bottom of your invoices and statements that tells people how they can pay you, and also some terms for your quotes. So you can type something here and that will show up on your quotes. Okay, I'll just cancel out of here, and I'll just show you that the other thing you can do is add your logo. So you just go up here and you just upload an image within the requirements that are listed here, and that logo will show up on your finance documents, such as your invoices. Okay, you've also got some default settings, and in here you can put some default dates in for invoice due dates and bill due dates. So if all of your invoices are due within 30 days, for example, you can type in 30 here and then choose days after the invoice date. And there's lots of other options there too. You can also choose what sort of prefix you want for your invoices. So ORC is the one here in the demo company, but you might like INV or something else. And then it just shows you which one is next in the series here. So this being the demo company, it does have invoices in there, but if this is your real business, that will be probably the number one. And you can do the same thing for things like credit notes, purchase orders, and quotes. And you've also got quote expiry date down here. So no doubt your quotes will be valid for something like 7 days, and you can go and put that in down here. When you're done, just click on Save. And another thing you might want to set up is payment services. Okay, so in the demo company here, it's just saying there's a couple of PayPal accounts attached. But if you want to add things like PayPal or Stripe or other payment services, just click on Add New Payment Service. And then you can add things like cards and digital wallets like Apple Pay and Google Pay, direct debit, and PayPal. And if you add these in here, links and buttons will be included with your invoices that get emailed to your customers from Xero. And that will help them to be able to use these payment services to pay your invoices quickly. So it's just a way to help your invoices get paid quickly. I'll go back to settings and just show you, you've also got invoice reminders. Okay, and over here you can set up some email reminders. So you can see there it's set up to be 7 days overdue, 14 days overdue, and 21 days overdue. You can change those if you like. You can have up to 4 reminders, and you've got various options there for what they will actually receive in the emails. So that's a good way of having Xero automatically send emails to your customers to remind them to pay their outstanding invoices. Okay, so that's the invoice settings. And we've already covered the email settings. And go to the templates where you can make changes as you wish to the emails that are sent directly from Xero for things like your invoices. Once you've got all that set up, you're ready to send invoices and quotes and add bills and purchase orders to Xero. Let's take a look now at how to create an invoice in Xero and email it to a customer. So from the dashboard, there's a few places you can go to. First of all, there's a new sales invoice button here you can click on. There's also a quick link up here you can click on, but you can also go into the business menu and invoices. And from here, you can just click on the new invoice button. But while we're here, I'll just show you that this screen gives you a summary of all of your invoices at their various stages. So this first tab shows all of your invoices. The next tab shows your draft invoices. So these are invoices that are still saved as drafts. Then you've got an awaiting approval tab. So there's one invoice here in the demo company that needs approval before it's sent to a customer. The next one is the awaiting payment tab. And that one shows invoices that have been sent to the customers. And you can see over on the right there, it shows whether they've been sent or not. And then there's a paid tab. And this shows all of the invoices that have been paid. And then there's a repeating tab, which shows invoices that are set up as repeating invoices. So they might automatically generate, say, once a month, and then you can send them to your customers. And there's none set up here in the demo company. Okay, so let's go back to all and new invoice. And once you get to the new invoice screen, you just need to fill in details such as the customer name, issue date, due date, etc. And then put the items in down below here. Once you've finished adding all the details to your invoice, it will look something like this. And from there, you just need to decide what to do with it next. So you can save it and close it, or add another, or submit for approval. Or if you're going to approve it right away, you can approve it and email it. And there's a few other options there as well, such as get link or print PDF. So in this example, we're just going to approve an email. And we'll get to a screen here where we can just check over the email that we're going to send to the customer, including whether or not to attach a PDF. And when we're happy with everything, we can just click on send email, and that will email the invoice to the customer. Now, because this is the demo company, we can't actually do it. So we'll just go back and we can see here that the invoice is now awaiting payment from the customer. There's a few other options as well. So for example, you could actually get a link. If you wanted to copy this link and email it to your customer through an external email system, or if you want to send it to them via a messaging system, you can do that. You can also create a repeating invoice out of this. You can copy it to another draft invoice, and you can also void the invoice if it's incorrect. You can also print the PDF, and you can print a packaging slip as well. Okay, let's go back to the invoices screen. And here we can see the invoice that we created. Now it's not saying sent because we couldn't email it from the demo company, but in your real business, once you do email it to the customer, that will say sent, and it will be awaiting payment. Now that was a fairly quick look at how to create an invoice in Xero. If you need something more in depth, check out our comprehensive video on this channel that I've linked to below, and also check out our course options. You can also add bills to Xero that you need to pay in future. And again, there is a button on the dashboard panel there. There's a quick link up here, or you can go to the business menu and bills to pay. And that takes you to this screen, which is the bills summary screen. And here you can see we're on the all tab, so we can see all of our bills, whether they're drafts or paid or awaiting payment, etc. There's a draft tab where we've got one bill that's saved as a draft. We've also got one bill that's awaiting approval to be paid. And we've got 13 bills that are approved and awaiting payment. This is a list of all the bills that have been fully paid. And there's also a few repeating bills here. So if you get a particular bill regularly, say for your monthly Xero subscription, you can just create a repeating bill and Xero will automatically create that bill for you in the system. So you don't have to do it from scratch. Okay, let's add a bill. So we'll go back to all and click on new bill. And you should get to a screen that looks like this, where you can add in the supplier name, the date, the due date, and the details of the bill. Once you've filled in all the details, it will look something like this. And then you've got options down below, so you can save it as a draft. You can also save it and submit it for approval, or save it and add another bill. Or you can come over here and you can approve the bill right away. And that is now ready for payment. If you need to print it out, you can just print the PDF. If you need to attach files, you can attach them here. So you might want to attach a copy of the actual bill you received and save it in Xero. And there's also some options here, so you can create a repeating bill. You can void this bill if it's incorrect and you don't need it anymore. You can make a copy, or you can edit it, or you can add a credit note. So let's go back to bills to pay. And in the awaiting payment tab, you can see the bill there that we just created, and that's waiting for you to pay by the due date. If you're going to use Xero for your payroll, the first thing you want to do is go and set it up. So if you go to the main drop-down menu and settings, and then go to payroll settings, the first thing you want to do is make sure the settings on the organization tab are correct. So first of all, you need to choose the bank account from which your employees are going to be paid here. And then there's also a bunch of liability and expense accounts that Xero is going to paste your payroll transactions to. Now Xero will automatically populate these for you, just like it has here in the demo company. But if you need to make any changes to them based on how you do your payroll, you do that here. Down the bottom, there's a few settings for things like payroll tracking, for employee groups and timesheet categories. And there's also options as to whether or not to show the annual salary and employment basis on the payslips. And you can also add your company logo down the bottom. Once you're done, just click on save and go to pay frequencies. And here you just need to set up payroll calendars based on how often you pay your employees. So in the demo company, there's one set up for fortnightly and one set up for weekly. You might only have one set up for your business. You might pay everybody at the same time, every week or every month, etc. But whatever the case, just click on add, choose the frequency and just go from there. And it's pretty easy to set that up. On the holidays tab, Xero will automatically have this for you. So it's got all of the major holidays for each Australian state there. So if that's all you need, then it's set up for you. If you need something a bit more specific, so let's say you need to set up the holidays for just Sydney, you can add group. You can create a group called Sydney, and you can go through the process here of adding the New South Wales holidays and then just add any more holidays that are just for Sydney. And you can also click on the X's over here to remove any of these dates that Xero has set up for you. Over in pay items, there's quite a lot to set up here. So Xero will have set some pay items up for you, but you need to go through and check them and make any changes that you need. And you also may need to add your own. So as you can see, this is split up between earnings, deductions, reimbursements, and leave. And you need to make sure you have all of these set up before you start running your payroll. It's a pretty big job, which is why in our Xero course, we spend a couple of hours going through this. And there's also a few videos on this channel to show you how to set a few of these up. So I recommend you check out our course and you check out the rest of our channel. To add superannuation funds, you just need to come over to this tab, click on Add Superannuation Fund, choose whether it's regulated or self-managed, find the fund and then click on Add, and they will show up in the list down here. And you need to add these before you add the employees and start paying them. So make sure you get the names of your superannuation funds from your employees. Okay, so there's some payroll settings that you need to set up before you start using payroll. Like I said, it's a big job, so check out our course options and also the other videos on our channel. Another thing you'll need to do before processing pay runs is to add your employees to Xero. So if you go to Payroll and Employees, and then New Employee, you can either add them one by one, or you can do a bulk upload. So in the demo company here, there's already a few employees added. So what I'll do is I'll just show you what they look like after they've been added. So we'll go into LeBron, and when you're adding your employees, you'll need to go through each of these tabs and fill in all the details. So the first one is just the personal details. And as you can see, there's some required information and some optional information. And just down here, bear in mind that you do need to put a mobile phone number in for your employee if you're going to process the superannuation payments through Xero using Auto Super. And you'll also need to add an email address if you're going to email them their pay slips and process their superannuation. Okay, so once you've got all that filled in and you've saved it down the bottom, you'll need to add their employment details. And in here, you just choose whether they're an employee or a contractor, what their income type is, which will normally be salary and wages, whether they're full-time, part-time, or casual, their start date, award classification, their payroll calendar, so that's how frequently you pay them, whether they belong to an employee group, whether they belong to a holiday group, so that's where you can choose which public holidays they get. So let's say this one's in New South Wales. And then also their ordinary earnings rate, which is ordinary hours over here. And whether or not they're authorized to approve leave or approve timesheets. And then down here, you add their superannuation membership. So a lot of these details come from the payroll settings that we saw before, which is why you need to set up those payroll settings before you start adding your employees. I'll click on Save. And that's done. And as you can see down the bottom here, it said these details will be lodged with the ATO when you file your next pay run for this payee. So you don't need to do that manually anymore. On the next tab, there's taxes. And that's where you'll add their tax file number, their residency status. And there's a few other options down here as well to do with whether they have student loans, whether they're claiming the tax-free threshold, or whether they've got offsets or any other adjustments to make. On the next tab, you've got leave. And this is where you will assign the leave types to the employees. So normally they will have annual leave and personal leave, but you can assign other types of leave as well. And you just need to choose what type of leave you're going to assign to them, and then fill in all the details as appropriate. There's also a history of their leave here. So you can see there's a history of leave applications that were accepted or rejected. And there's also the balance of the leave hours that they've got accrued over here. This is where you go to add the bank account details of the bank account that you're going to transfer their salary or wages into. And you can have up to 4 bank accounts here if you need to split it up between bank accounts. The next tab just shows a history of their pay slips. And the pay template tab is one that you'll need to set up for all of your employees. And this is where you go to enter all of their earnings, deductions, superannuation, etc. And whatever you enter here will flow through to any pay runs that you create for this employee. Once you're done, you just click on Save, and that will be ready to go for your pay runs. For opening balances, if you're converting to Xero from another payroll software, you might need to bring over the leave balances for the employee. So you can do that here. And then you may also need to report it via single touch payroll. So you can check that out here as well. Once your employee is set up, if you mouse over here, you can see their earnings to date, and you can see their annual salary there. So that's hidden most of the time. And once you're finished setting up your employee, they will show up on the list over here. And if you haven't done so yet, you can check that box, click on Invite to Xero Me, and that will send them an email where they can register for the employee portal, where they can go to do things like apply for leave and see their pay slips. So that's the process for setting up employees. You can see there's also a past tab over here, and this will show you a list of any employees that you've had in Xero that no longer work for you. And if you're looking for your end of year reports, such as your STP finalization and payment summaries, it's over here in this drop down. So that's how you can set up your employees before you start processing pay runs in Xero. Once your payroll is fully set up and you've added all of your employees and it's time to pay them, you can just go to the payroll menu and pay employees. And you'll get to this screen where you can see a history of the pay runs that you've processed. And then up here, you can see any draft pay runs that you've started and haven't yet finished, or you can click on this button to add a pay run. So let's add a new pay run. And we'll do the weekly calendar and next. So Xero has now set up a draft pay run that includes only the employees who are paid weekly. The employees who are paid fortnightly are in a different pay run. So once you get here, you can see totals of the main numbers up the top, the status, which is draft, and the payment date. And then down here, you can see the employees that are included. If you want to exclude someone, you just need to click on the green tick over there. If you click on it again, you can put them back in. And then down the bottom, you've got options to delete the pay run, reset the pay run, and you've got some reports down here, such as the pay slips, the pay run journal, and the bank payments. And then you've got a button to post the pay run. But before you do that, you might like to click on each employee and just go through and check that everything is okay. So most of this information comes from the pay templates that you would have set up when you were adding your employee. But just because they're in the pay templates, it doesn't mean that it's hard-coded and you can't change it. So as you can see, you could, for example, change the number of hours or the pay rate here, the amount of bonus that's received, the amount of paid parental leave. You can also add new earnings lines, or you can just click on these X's and just remove them. You can do the same thing with deductions. As you can see here, the tax lines are automatically calculated, including pay-as-you-go withholding tax, and you can't change them here. So if you're going to make any changes to their taxes, you just need to add a tax line and put in an adjusting amount. Down here, you also have superannuation. So you can see there that the percentage is 9%, so that should be a lot more. So if you need to manually change that, you can, or if it needs to be a permanent change, you would change that in the employees template and it would come through at the right amount. Once again, you can also add other superannuation lines. You can add reimbursement lines. There's a total payment amount down the bottom, and there's also the amount of annual leave this employee is going to accrue for this week's pay. And once again, you can add other leave lines if you need to. So this is leave accruals. This is not leave taken. This is leave accruals. If you do make changes and you want to go back to the original payslip, you can just click on Reset Payslip. If the employee is leaving your business, you can set it as their final pay. But if everything's okay, you can either click on Save or then Save and Next. And that will take you to the next employee and you can check their details as well. When you're happy, you can just click on Close. You can then go in and view your reports. So if you click on Payslips, it will bring up the payslips and you can go through and check those. You've also got an employee summary report, payroll activity details report, and a journal that you can check. And there's also the bank payments report you can check as well. Once you're happy with everything, just click on Post Pay Run. Okay, so now that's posted. Once again, you've got reports that you can check. You've got some pay run options, so you can download an ABA file, which you can then upload to your online banking to process the actual payments to the employees. You can also email the pay slips to the employees, so that's why you need to include an email address when you're setting up your employees. If you click on that, their pay slips will be emailed to them. And you can also revert this to a draft at the moment, but you won't be able to revert it to a draft if you've actually paid the employees and reconciled the payment in the bank account feed. And this is the button that you click to file the pay run through Single Touch Payroll to the Australian Tax Office. So I won't click it here because the demo company doesn't have that ability. I'll just click on close. And now we can see that pay run in our history. You can see it says not filed, but when you file it, you'll see a green button that says filed. Once again, this is the demo company, so none of these are actually filed with the ATO. So that's how easy it is to process your pay runs in Xero. And once you've done that, all you need to do after that is reconcile the payments that come through in your bank account feed and then process any superannuation payments. If you're going to use Xero for your activity statements, there's a few settings that you need to have in place first. So if you go to the main drop down and settings, and then go to advanced settings, and then go to financial settings, you need to complete these activity statement settings up here. So that includes whether you're using the accruals basis or the cash basis, how often your GST is calculated, how often your pay-as-you-go withholding tax is calculated for your payroll, and also your method for your pay-as-you-go income tax. And then down the bottom, there's also a couple of checkboxes if you pay any of those taxes. Once you've got that set up, you can click on Save and then go to Tax Rates and then choose either the basic tax rates, which you can see here, or the advanced tax rates, which you'll use if you do a full BAS. So you can see here there's a lot more GST tax rates than there was in the basic tax rates. So if you use a full BAS, make sure you choose advanced tax rates. So I'll go back to basic and we'll go back to the dashboard. Now, if you haven't filed an activity statement before, go to accounting and activity statement. And here, Xero will just want you to check over all of these settings. And if you need to make any changes, go ahead and do so. And once you're done, click on Save and Continue. And you'll be taken to this screen where you can start filing your activity statements. Now, setting up your activity statements can be quite confusing. So make sure you grab a copy of the Xero Setup checklist that I've linked to in the description below and send it to your tax accountant if you need to get some information. And also check out other videos on this channel and our course options where we have much more information on how to set up your activity statements in Xero properly. To create an activity statement in Xero, just go to Accounting and Activity Statement. If you don't see it here, go into Reports, scroll down until you get to Taxes and Balances, and just click on the star to favorite it. So when that's blue, it will be included in your favorites, and then it will show up in the menu here. Okay, so in the demo company here, it's giving me a button to create my first activity statement, and there's no history of any activity statements down here. So this is similar to what your screen will look like when you're first using Xero. And as you go along, you'll be able to see the history of your activity statements down here too. Now, there is a process to go through to connect Xero to the ATO. So I don't have a button here in the demo company, but you will see a button in your live Xero account. So you need to go through that process first before creating and lodging an activity statement. There's also a button to go to settings here, which we saw in the last part of the video. Okay, so over here, you can select which period to create your activity statement for. As you can see, it's set to monthly here with GST, pay-as-you-go withholding tax, and pay-as-you-go income tax every quarter, which is why it's showing for December, September, etc. And then in the other months, it's set to pay as you go withholding tax, which will just be an installment activity statement. So you might have something a little bit different to this depending on the settings for your business. So once you've chosen the right period, just click on Create Statement. And then you'll see a summary down here. So there's not much to see in the demo company here, but you can see there's the GST on sales. There's the amount withheld through payroll for withholding tax. And then there's just some totals down the bottom here, including the GST on purchases. And then down the bottom, there's a total amount paid. So depending on your business, you might see a lot more or even less information on here. If you need to check your transactions, just click on the Transactions tab, and you can go through every single transaction and see if there's any problems. You can also export to Excel or PDF if you'd rather check your transactions that way, or just save them. Once everything is right, you can come down here and you can finalize and create a draft bill. That's what I've got here in the demo company. In a live account, you might see a different button, but I'll just click on that button. So you can see here it says that finalizing means that the activity statement is recorded in Xero, but it's not actually filed with the ATO, and that's because this is the demo company. So in your real Xero account, you'll have an option to be able to file it to the ATO, as long as you've connected Xero to the ATO, like I mentioned before. Now, once you've filed it or lodged it with the ATO, that doesn't mean that you've actually paid the bill. So you could see that it created a bill, and you can view that bill here by clicking on this link, but you can also just go to the bills section. So I'm just going to duplicate the screen, and we'll go to bills to pay. And there you can see the ATO bill right there, which is a draft for $3,772. So you need to go in and pay that bill as the next step. So over here, you can see that total up the top if you need to check that, 3,772. And you can also see another link to view the bill. Let's go back to activity statements. Okay, and now we can see we do have a bit of history there. We've got that activity statement right there that's finalized and needs to be paid. And then up here, Xero has gone and created a couple more activity statements for us to lodge in future. Okay, that's it for this video. And like I said before, make sure you check out the links to our full-length Xero tutorials on this channel, and also the links to our comprehensive Xero courses. And make sure you download a copy of our free Xero setup checklist. So thanks again, and I'll see you in another video.